Also, Trump speaks about oil. He speaks about windmills. He speaks about UK energy. Now, listen to this. This is the best interest of the British citizens at heart here. He's talking about how we could set... UK's got the highest energy bills in the whole of Europe. And probably rival the world. I don't know statistically where we are in the world standings, but certainly in Europe we're one of the highest, probably if not the highest.
The highest of developed countries.
Yeah. And he's talking about here, well, we've got mass amounts of oil reserves in the North Sea. Drill, baby. And you can save... our citizens, 70% of our thing. You know, the guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I know you've got something really interesting with regard to oil. We'll get to it straight after this. Let's see what Trump said quickly.
You talked to Starmer about
I did, yeah.
windmills,
I think windmills are a disgrace. I think they hurt everything they touch. They're ugly. They're very inefficient. It's the most expensive form of energy there is. People hate it when they become visible from their house. When you see them from a house, the value goes down by 50% and more. They make noise. When they're out in the ocean, they're bad for the sea life, very bad for the whales, obviously, because they wash up on shore like 9 times more than they did without them. No, they are really bad, and they cost a lot of money. You know, there's not a wind farm that's put up without subsidy. So instead of making money, what they should do is open up the whole North Coast oil. They have tremendous oil right there, right where we play. And they've made it impossible for people to drill. It's crazy. It's, that's one of the best oil areas in the world. They've made it impossible for people to take it out. Instead, they put up these ugly windmills all over the country and all over the world. I don't know what it is. Nobody likes them. They have the greatest lobby, but it's starting. I think I'm starting to get to it now. They're bad energy. They look bad. They kill the birds. They're really terrible things. And it's the most expensive energy of any energy there is. And in fact, not every, I guess, I don't know, maybe some, but almost every windmill put up needs subsidy from the government. So instead of making money, they lose money, and that's why UK energy costs are very high. Because when we were flying over to the plane, they were all over the place. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing. I'll say it till I can't speak anymore. And I think we are having an impact, and they're starting to take a lot of windmills down. I mean, they're literally starting to take them down. They don't work, they're bad, and they're too costly. And every year you see them up there, the government is paying a lot of money. Whereas if you have oil, if you have other forms of energy, you make money on it. In other words, you bring down taxes. UK could reduce their energy costs by 70% if they would use the North Sea oil. It just doesn't make sense. It's just not a liberal thing to do, but it's becoming more of a liberal thing to do. I love being out there. It was great. Good feeling.
Yeah, I think what he said there is absolutely spot on. And I love the way Trump phrases it, they're killing the whales 9 times more. I think it's very Trump-esque, but the actual reality of the situation is a lot more sinister. So I've been doing some digging. Because I saw this clip last night, I've been researching about the North Shore oil. So the statistics I'm using here are from the North Sea Transition Authority. This is the government's report on UK oil and gas reserves. So, in the introduction and summary, it mentions that the UK has a lot of North oil fields that they have not developed. So, there are basically 4 stages when it comes to oil fields. So, the first one is discovered but undeveloped, which means they're ready to go. All they need is the permit from the government, and they can start drilling. This equates to about 6.1 billion barrel of oil equivalent. But that's not all. So they have 3 more stages. One of them is a lead, which is like a potential. One of them is a prospect, so it's a potential you've done some research on. And another one is a play, which is like based on geological data, where they think there might be oil based on historical data, rock formations, etc. So the leads and prospects equates to about 3.5 billion barrels of oil equivalent. And the plays, which are outside sort of prospective resource zones equate to about 11.2 billion barrels of oil equivalent. Now, that equates in total untapped resources to 20.8 billion barrels of oil equivalent. Now, this is a big number. How do we quantify this in terms of actual energy? So I've done some digging. Now, the UK uses around 1.3 million barrels of oil equivalent per day. So that is our consumption rate. The UK produces 800,000 barrels of oil equivalent. So we have a net difference there of about 500,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day that we have to import from places like Saudi Arabia, the US, and Norway. So, this is the bit that blew my mind. So we have a 500,000 barrel of oil deficit per day, and we have over 20.8 billion barrels of oil ready to go. That 20.8 billion, if you divide it by the 500,000 deficit, that gives you enough oil to fill the deficit to become 100% energy efficient for the next 113 years. Which means we will not have to import any oil from any country for the next century, over a century, which is wild. Now, the difference between imported oil and domestically produced oil is vast. It's vast in terms of price, and it's vast in terms of carbon footprint. When you're importing oil from Saudi Arabia, for an example, the kilos of CO2 per barrel is around 40 to 50. When you domestically produce it, it's about 20 to 25. Wow. So every single barrel of oil that's coming from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East is double the harm on the environment. So the environmentalists can say what they like. This is way more harmful to import oil. And not only that, it's nearly 20% more expensive. So a barrel of oil costs between sort of 30 to 40 pounds when it's domestically produced, and it's nearly 5 to 15 pounds more expensive when you import it. But it gets even worse. So I was thinking that 20% doesn't seem like a big number. So I was looking into the taxes. He mentioned that they don't allow UK drillers to drill, and there's a lot of reasons for that. So the tax regime we have right now. So we have three main taxes on oil. So the first one is a ring fence corporation tax. Now this is a 30% tax on profits targeting North Sea operation. The ring fence means that these profits cannot be offset by losses from other business activities. The secondary one is a supplementary charge, which is an additional 10% tax on ring fence profits. So the ring fence comes to 40%. Now, the real kick in the teeth here, Dan, this really annoyed me, is that in May 2022, as a temporary measure to tax extraordinary profits due to high energy prices, they introduced a thing called the Energy Profits Levy, the EPL. This is currently set at 38%. That means that the profits of North Sea oil companies are taxed at 78%. Okay? Now, the key here is that the Energy Profits Levy is set to expire on March 31st in 2030. So, the UK oil companies are sitting on gold. These oil fields are ready to go, but they will not develop them until this levy expires. Because why would you develop something when you're going to be taxed 38% higher? It makes no sense. And not only that, the Secretary of State at the Department of Energy, Ed Miliband, has called developing the Rosebank oil fields an act of climate vandalism. Wow. So not only are the oil companies not wanting to develop it because they can just save the oil fields, they can enjoy higher prices, and then once the levy gets removed, they will make more profit. The government do not want them. They do not want new oil fields to be developed. So right now, the government is gaining a lot of tax revenue from these oil fields. So I did a bit of digging. Where is these taxes going? So the UK paid a record 1.9 billion in subsidies to the offshore wind farms. Now, we saw Trump talk about wind farms quite extensively there. There are massive environmental issues here, but I'm not going to focus on them. I'm going to focus on the subsidies. So there's a couple of things to go over here. Firstly, not only are they subsidized to be built, but they are subsidized to, it's a thing called onshore congestion payments, which are set to surpass 1.7 billion this year. So this means that a lot of that money is paid to shut off far-flung wind farms in Scotland that won't be able to deliver electricity over a congested grid. We pay wind farms to turn off, and we pay them at a set rate. So this is a thing called a contract for difference. Basically, when a wind farm gets created, they have a deal with the government to as a set price to sell their energy. That is the contract for difference. When the wholesale price is below the set rate, the government makes up the difference. When the wholesale price is above, the wind farms pay back the government. Okay? So the government is incentivized to keep oil prices high, because if they drop oil prices, the wholesale energy prices will plummet, and they will have to pay wind farms billions and billions of pounds, because these contracts for differences, they go on for decades. So we are sinking our ship on purpose. We have sold out the country to these wind farms, who will then make vast profits if the wholesale price of energy drops. So not only is there no incentive to drop energy prices, but if we drop energy prices, we are going to have to pay billions of pounds to the owners of the wind farms. There's a lot to unpack there, but
that's crazy. But you said something about 2022. Obviously, we've seen Ed Miliband, some net zero fanatic, isn't he? He's crazy for it. And did I read something that he owns, or his brother at least owns some of these companies as well? So there's like a little bit of
conflict of interest there.
Yeah. But also at the same time, you spoke about 2022 again, which again we always blame Labour.
But this is Conservative.
That's Conservative, yeah.
Yeah, the Conservative put on the levy.
But they're fighting this now. They're talking about net zero. It's like WWE, isn't it? It's like we're just they're all part of the same agenda, but they're just like putting these shows on, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like it's just like a show. Like PMQs must just be like a show. They're all for the same thing, but they're just like a good guy and a bad guy and back and forth. It's controlled opposition, because that's their thing. And along with the Online Safety Act, that's their thing as well.
Exactly. These are all Conservative legislation. You know, the Conservatives put this levy on North Sea oil companies. The Conservatives were the ones to set out the legislation that has now been in effect in the Online Safety Act. This is all Conservative, and it's easy for them to sit on the sidelines and belittle the Labour government, pass the blame onto the Labour government when it is their wrongdoing.
It's mental. Absolutely mental. That's crazy. But Trump sees it. He sees it all.
He's wild. And, the actual details of this is staggering. We could be a rich country. We could be energy independent. It would only take maybe between 20 and 30 new platforms to fill that 500,000 barrel a day deficit that we have. That means we will stop importing expensive oil, the environmental cost, because, they're using diesel boats to transport oil. And then we're burning the oil. But, it's all in that sort of big number, that carbon neutral, that carbon footprint. All they want to see is that number go down.
So my question on that is why?
Well, that's a whole different topic of conversation. I think we'll do that one day. We'll dig into the climate hoax.
Yeah.
But I can promise you now that, it's a very interesting topic of conversation. I can promise you now that CO2 is not the threat that we are led to believe. It's the main food source of plants. So we kind of need CO2. And there's a lot more to dig in there. But, it's really part of this sort of globalist agenda. We're sinking our ship while China imports massive amount of coal, burns massive amount of coal. Their CO2 carbon footprint on the world is like 20 times higher than we are, and it just keeps rising and rising. Nothing we can do will ever change the world temperature. We are less than 1% of the world.
Yeah.
There is nothing we can do. All we're going to do is put ourselves at a disadvantage on the global stage.
It's mental.
It is, and it's not going to get better unless the people are informed. because it's very easy to say, oh, so you don't like the environment. So you want more CO2. But the people need to be informed about this. It is a scam. And we are choosing right now to not be energy independent.
Yeah.
The first port of call for this government, for the next government that comes in, is energy independence. We need to expand the North Sea operation massively. We need to reduce taxes. We need to stop oil imports. We need to end these contracts with the wind farms and take them all down. The environmental issues that Trump laid out, the whales dying. The whales is interesting because they send vibrations through the water, and which affects their communication.
Yeah.
And it also affects their orientation as well. That's why they're washing up on the shore, because they don't know where they're going. I don't want to hear about these environmental issues when there's massive amount of harm to marine wildlife.
Mental. Absolutely mental, mate. Absolutely mental. I can't believe that we're on those. That's what's happening with regard to it.
And this is what Trump did tweet out about the North Sea oil. So North Sea oil is a treasure chest for the United Kingdom. The taxes are so high, however, that it makes no sense. They have essentially told drillers and oil companies that we don't want you. Incentivize the drillers fast. A vast fortune to be made for the UK and far lower energy costs for the people. He knows what he's talking about.
And he knows what he's talking about, and he has the people's best interest at heart.
Yeah.
They're doing something which, seeing our energy prices going high, and they're making out that they're doing something about it for this net zero. Which stinks. Absolutely stinks.
They're letting go of one rope without securing another.
Yeah. It's bonkers. I'm really interested in that, though. I'm really interested as to why. Why are they doing this?
It seems perverse. It just seems like a betrayal of the people. Forget winter fuel allowances. We could be saving the people, the working class people of this country, hundreds of pounds a month in energy prices. We're talking about heating. We're talking about water. We're talking about fuel for their cars. We're talking about everything. Electricity. If we can halve all of them costs, that will boost the public sector massively. And it seems intentional. When I look into the statistics like this, it seems absolutely intentional.
Sad. Really, really sad. Because the people are, the working class people are the ones being affected.
Exactly. Yeah, they're the ones that are going to be the most affected by these things. When their income, their energy bills as a proportion of their income is much higher, they're the ones that are going to be the greatest affected.